Okay, so I was saying, first of all, thank you so much for accepting to come onto this tour with us, to spend this afternoon here with us, discovering or rediscovering the works that are being made in this fabric context. So, my name is Sofia Botelho. I'm one of the 3 curators of Fabric, the Arts Festival. It's me, Jesse James, and Antonio Pedro Lopes. So the 3 of us, we were, just to give you a little bit of context, if you don't know, you're not into exactly what this is about. So we were challenged by Michael Benavides, who is the heart and soul for this festival. It's his idea, actually, to think a festival, a multidisciplinary festival for Fall River. So we had to come to Fall River to understand, of course, because the 3 of us are Azorian. So we had an idea of what is Fall River, and but we didn't quite know what it was all about. So once we got here, we understood its complexity, its richness, its history, and we thought, okay, this has amazing potential to create a festival in here. So our goal was to appoint, to occupy different spaces of the city, connecting the past, so its history, the history of Fall River, thinking about, in this logic of present, what is Fall River today, but also thinking about what can it be and looking all the possibilities, because you feel like Fall River has all these possibilities in terms of people, dynamics, spaces that could be occupied. So our goals was through art to show you, so that considering that much more many people know these places or don't, to discover these places or rediscover them through art. So, as this is a good example, have you enjoyed the ride? Yeah. Okay. I love this project. But so the plan was, we invite different artists in the area of visual arts, architecture, design, but also, of course, musicians. This is to be discovered in a more, this occupation, of course, is more ephemeral, because you had to experience, because then it will be gone, but will be a part of this collective memory of all of us. But the artworks will be, as that wall there, I don't know if you see it, but we're gonna see it, will remain in the city. And the plan was that these works could activate somehow these spaces in the city. So what I'm going to show you today is these artworks that are being made because, yes, most of them are not done yet. They will be done by today or tomorrow. And of course, you will be talking directly with the artists. They will tell you what it's all about, their project. And the next one, actually, what you're going to see is a proposal, because we invited artists to come here to Fall River and to create these artworks. However, in the case we're going to see now, we invited these 2 artists, Jonathan and Sarah, from Wisdia, We Should Do It All. It is a designer group in New York. And they came here in this logic of artistic residence to think this project for River. They will tell you all about it. We're going to speak with them now and they are going to show you a model of the project they are going to create for next year, okay? Because you will see it's a big project and we need more time than these 2 weeks. But let's go. So I present you Wisdia, We Should Do It All, Jonathan and Sarah, please.
Hello. So as she mentioned, Jonathan and Sarah, we have a studio in Brooklyn called We Should Do It All. And we are invited by Sophia and Jesse of Fabric to think about a public space that can live in Fall River for either temporary or permanent, depending on how the city takes it. In our internal conversations at the studio, so we wanted to really talk about the trials and tribulations with immigration and migration, and it's a topic that we can't escape in this day and age, and we've been able to take on more social activism type of work, and we thought Fall River was a perfect example in studying the research and history here, how borders have changed, where it was once considered a part of Rhode Island, and then Massachusetts, and then back and forth. The type of people that have migrated here, it's such a rich culture and history of it, even from women's suffrage to free slave labor. So we wanted to focus that idea, creating a public space where it's an idea around cultural exchange, food market, where the Puerto Rican community and the Portuguese community could exchange food. We are working with Lasagna Cruz out of Brooklyn, New York. She's an artist that centers her work around immigration and migration and creating public forum and workshops around that. So the hope is within this center space, we can have, please come. We can have a moment of dialogue and sort of creating a center forum that we can have open discussion about immigration, and her workshops study about where people come from and how their families arrive where they are, and basically having an open dialogue around immigration. There's 4 more covered moments that we thought could be marketplace. We also hope to do a playground, so in between these are 4x4 lumber posts, so the outside is 20 feet tall and the inside is 8 feet tall, so it comes down to more of a human scale. There's 4 entryways and passageways through, and then we thought these 4 moments could be marketplaces. In between each post to certain areas would be a playground, so we can have monkey bars going throughout. So the idea is to bring community here, and then hopefully through programming with Fabric, we can have programming centered around performance, installation art, dialogue, lectures around immigration, and
anything. I mean, another thing that Jonathan didn't touch on yet was that from the outside perspective, we want to have 4 different colors. So when you view it from the exterior, you see different colors going this way, but then from the interior going outwards, you would see all the same color. So we're really just picking up on this idea of like different communities coming together, but then from the interior, it's this idea of really like celebrating us all as one.
Sorry, did I miss? Is there a site for this selected yet?
That's
So-
what we're,
sorry.
No, that's fine.
No.
So, yeah, Jesse, take over.
So when we worked with them in the Azores 2 years ago, they went to do a residency with Miguel Flur, and we got along. And then when we came here, it was like we need to invite them to come, and then they proposed this project, which was super ambitious, and we were like, oh, we're not going to be able to do all of this in a pilot edition for the festival. So we decided to transform this into sort of a residency between this pilot edition of Fabric and the next edition of Fabric in 2020, so that we have 1 year to discuss this as a project, as a space, as a program, because that's what, at least for me and Sofia, what we were, of course, there's this architectural dimension and sculptural dimension of the project that is, of course, for us very interesting, and it would be some sort of a new landmark also for the city, which would be impressive and amazing. But we find that what was really cool about their proposal was the programming part, of looking at this beyond its physical component and thinking of it as a gathering place, and what strategies can you implement to create and to bring people into this space, and to have these discussions which right now are very difficult, especially right now here in the States, and how communities relate to each other, how, you know, second, third generation of immigrants look upon new immigrants, and how do you bring all of these people together? And it's through gathering, it's through conversation, it's dialogue. So we're not completely clear of what the programming would be. The idea is that it should be a strong component of it. We've been, and they've been driving around the city trying to figure out where this could happen. We gathered already with the city hall to understand like specific locations, and also to understand what is the ideas of the city of Fall River for the future in terms of development. So we know all of this highway, as they call it, here by the riverfront is going to disappear, so everything is going to be like some sort of a boulevard. they want to connect what they call the downtown, which is around where you were having your conversation.
Right.
That's like Purchase Street all the way down to here through Central Street. So we were like going around the parks, also understanding, and we understood that most of the parks are actually used a lot for baseball, soccer.
Football.
So yeah, so we were also understanding how, and it's also very different in terms of the laws. You have the city laws, state laws, federal laws. So there's a lot of laws and a lot of people managing spaces. So this will also be a good project for us to understand how these things work within the city.
I don't know if you want to mention.
Yeah, and we saw that park over there,
Overside of the red brick building, and
which has a lot of space. We wanted to do this conversation there, but they didn't allow us to put this there.
Oh,
You
shouldn't
need
be
a
a
permit.
problem.
so we have some work to do.
So they wouldn't allow you to
Yeah,
put the
no.
model, so it's...
Yeah, we can't have a presentation without a permit.
Because this was just a conversation that we've been having in the past days. So of course we didn't contact, I think it's the state authority. But yeah, so the idea now is that this will stay in that's why we created the model, so that it becomes visible and people understand the format and how it will work. We will try to leave it in a very public space in Fall River, so that people can, continue this conversation about this pavilion, this as you call it, the post pavilion.
Yeah. And just to give you a little bit more physical aspects, as I mentioned, 20 foot tall on the perimeter, 8 foot tall on the interior posts, and then overall diameter is 80 feet, so 24 meters. We have a lot of work to do, but it's something that when we met with some of the officials of the city yesterday, they were very enthusiastic about it, so that's a good sign. But yeah, hopefully the goal is to get this going.
And the project is not necessarily, it's not a project forever. It will be built in a temporary logic, meaning it might last 6 months. The idea could even be that the project will be done by, I don't know, maybe next April or May, so that it could be used throughout summer, and then we would conclude it in for example during Fabric with some installations, or inviting artists to work in this place. Other festivities of the city or other cultural partners and agents of the region could even do and propose projects for the space, and anything that you can do to activate it and to generate all of these different conversations. And of course, if the city really likes it and if people react in a positive way, yeah, maybe it should stay longer, or we should find ways of it becoming part effectively of the city. If not, it can be as the project in New Bedford. It could just be, because it serves a purpose. It could just be there for 6-7 months to activate that and to generate almost like a kickstart project. And then it can be, I think it's very transformative, and this can be transformed into multiple things. And as
Yeah, absolutely. From our point of view, we're going to go back to Brooklyn, investigate it more, because we're kind of early in the design process. There's many questions to be had, like what does it sound like, what does it look like at night? Different types of programming that we're thinking about. So yeah, we have a lot to answer on the design side, and then working with Fall River officials on seeing how we can get this actually produced.
Yeah.
Are there pavilions elsewhere in the world that have inspired you?
I mean, even 2 years ago, what are they? ATQS, the gentleman. At Walk and Talk in the Azores, there was a beautiful pavilion at the city center that we loved, and they use a particular wood from the Azores called Cryptomeria that we would love to bring here for that, but we understand that might be a little difficult. But yeah, there's tons. I can't have anything come to mind now, but yeah.
No, I think, of course, the obvious, like from Serpentine Gallery.
Serpentine Gallery is perfect.
We, in our festival, we build a pavilion every year. And these pavilions, they're very strong because they create like these temporary in-between spaces that are very curious because they will only exist for a certain amount of time. and it's interesting how you try to invite. They become places of invitation. Of course, it needs to be programmed, and there needs to be a strategy. But at their base, they're always this space of invitation because it's a new construction in the city, and it's open. There are no walls. You can come here freely. So when you're able to create these spaces and to invite people, or to at least make people feel invited to the space, that's very powerful. In the sort of engagement that you might be able. Of course, this is always an how do you say, hypothesis, because you never know exactly how it will work. We're always experimenting with art, architecture, and yes.
Have you given any thought to how you would light it for possibly performance?
Yeah, we were talking about it. So yeah, you see how the light reacts to it.
Yeah.
So it, one of the reasons why it's a circle, because we were thinking about the globe, and when talking about immigration, it just makes sense to formulate that it would be a circle. But one of the things that we love is how the shadows react. And then maybe working with Jonathan and Katarina, who did the installation upstairs that you just saw, there's endless possibilities of how we could have collaborations with many different artists and how
you see theatrical production.
Exactly, recitals, dance performances. We see there's potential for a lot of things.
And also, sorry, Jonathan. What's amazing about this project, or the idea of a pavilion, is that also, for example, in the context of Fabric as an arts festival, this can be like a meeting point where you can invite people and you can commission new work. Because what's interesting about what we're trying to do here is also commissioning new projects. It's not about replicating things that already exist elsewhere. It's like really inviting people here and to challenge them to create new projects. It's what we've been doing in the Azores, and we've been very successful doing it, because it's not about replicating what other geographies already have. It's about bringing people and say, okay, let's think about this place. Let's create something new specifically for this. So yeah, it's what we were talking in terms of light, of sound. We have tons of questions. Every time we talk about it, we just bring new questions.
So I'm curious, if I may, so that when you think about where to place it in a city setting, like Heritage State Park is beautiful, it's on the water. I mean, obviously the role of water in the immigration story is very rich, but it also then becomes a destination, as opposed to, pardoning the pun, a fabric of the city. So I'm curious, as artists, how important is it for it to be an element that just becomes part of someone's everyday? You know what I mean? Sort of like, I got to cut through that to get to work, versus I'm going to go see that.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're familiar with Kennedy Park?
Yeah.
I mean, if we had a choice, that would be primary, just because of the amount of traffic that it has around it. But we have to live in the context of what we're allowed to do as well.
Right.
But
we did talk about that a lot. Just the idea of it being more in public spaces and being like something that people are interacting with in their everyday.
Yeah.
But I think it's a challenge in Fall River because it's a lot of driving, and it's not a ton of foot traffic that's very centralized, at least from what we've seen in the past week. So maybe we're wrong.
You're accurate in your observation. And I think it's one of the challenges for the city is how do you make it more pedestrian?
Right.
In the positive frame of life.
And then another park that we really like, I might say it wrong, but Bretland Park or something? Britland Park. There's a nice walkway, and a lot of pedestrians are going through that path, and we can easily see that being integrated over there.
Do you have any plans to read this here, have it observed, work with students, be back and forth, interact with the people in the community?
Yeah, absolutely.
To have it sort of
this is actually Fall Rivers.
symbolically on display somewhere.
We were initially we thought of like taking all of you to the last floor of the city hall, which we all love, the architecture of the building. Because we went there to have a meeting, and it has a beautiful view over the city. So the idea was to go up there with the model so that you could point out where you would find interesting. So we'll try to understand where that place can be. Is it the city hall? Is it Portugalia? Because for us, Portugalia is the meeting point of the city, and that's where people congregate and talk. So maybe it will stay there. But if you have any suggestion of where it should stay maybe it could each month it could be else in a different place, in the school and finding moments. This is something that this is something that we also need to discuss more. It's like, how will we do public forums? Who will coordinate them? How regular should they happen? Is this more like, we have to lobby for this to happen, and we also need to find money to finance it, which I think that's actually the easiest part. I think it's more about how you find like the city to be interested in it, and understanding that this could be a new landmark for the city, or at least an example of a city that is trying, to create new centralities between its urban planning, and that the city supposedly, from what we're understanding, like they want to change all of this area, taking down the highway, reorganizing all of these paths. These things are super expensive, and probably they're going to be able to do it, but it's very easy to clean and to rebuild, but it's also like doing it in a meaningful way, as you were talking, and how do you reorganize fluxes, and how do you create different dynamics, because I think the city kind of needs it. Like, how do you make it more pedestrian? But you're walking with us, and because for us that was the question. It was like, will people walk with us? Because we're gonna walk now a little bit more. But this is a proposal for the future, and I hope you can help us make it work. And if you have ideas and comments and suggestions of of artists that could collaborate also with the project,
I think
please,
there's floor
do.
space at Portugalia Marketplace for this to be. People could see it every day.
It's great.
It's really exciting.
Thank you.
It's a piece of this festival that we know we can look forward to next year.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you. See, actually, this was actually nice. We had a good view, and we can imagine that it will be next year.
So, surprise! We bring you here to help Braulio finish his work. Brushes for everyone. Now, see.
Sorry, we had to cut down.
Okay. So for this wall, actually, this is a collaborative work. This is the result of a workshop by Braulio Madu. This person here on the right. And Braulio is a designer. He works in New York. Braulio, sorry, I know you're busy. While you talk, I can. You want to share with us a few words about your work here?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So actually, Isaiah might be the best person to explain the workshop. He was there.
Me? Alright. Why not?
You talk better than I do.
So basically, Braulio here kind of had a workshop going on where students from both the Yak Corps and from Risley would all come together in a room and answer prompts that he would ask us without any words, only pictures. So we would kind of develop these ideas that we had, put them on paper using only abstract imagery, and he kind of took all these as an culmination and put it together and designed this. And basically, we've just been scaling it up and painting on it. And it's done.
Give a short description of what Yak Corps is, because a lot of people may not know the organization.
So the organization I work for is called Yak Corps, which stands for Youth Experiencing Artistic Hope. And what we do is we take kids from around the city, high school age kids, and we engage them in the arts directly. So we produce art, which helps us. We get paid to do that. So we have jobs in the arts doing what we love. But not only does this help us, this helps the city as well, because we're putting our art into the city, which is circulating around and kind of helping the city out. So it's a win-win either way.
That's great.
We actually have an exhibition going on at the Narrows right now, at the concert space. We had 2 maps, which we've completed this summer. So we got pictures and maps and all types of stuff there, so you can check it out if you guys can.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty better than I am.
Down the nail.
Yeah.
No, but also, you know, I didn't want to just put my work on the wall, and that was the idea for the workshop.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about Fall River, so this was a way for me to have them and me involved in the project to understand more about Fall River and have a collaborative work on the wall. So, yeah, we'll be done in a few hours.
What's been the best part of working in Fall River?
The best part, the people, definitely, everyone helped out, and it's been really fun in meeting everyone.
Flipper steak.
The steak, definitely.
Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
About Portuguese beer.
Sorry?
And about Portuguese beer.
Ah, of course.
Braulio is Portuguese.
I'm Portuguese.
I know.
Yeah, but
I know.
But in New York, it's not as
You are
easy
from
to
here.
find. Yeah, here is way easier to find. It tastes better too.
You have a Fall River face.
Me? Yeah, I'm Portuguese. Sorry?
What does all this mean?
So this pretty much all the answers. So exactly, like as I said, like I asked all these questions to the students. Some of them they had to answer them like realistic drawings or more abstract, geometric.
It's a signature from all.
So this pretty much like collage of all the bits and pieces of the drawings. Yeah, I definitely want like a more abstract, modern painting, but I want like a story behind it. So the process kind of led to it.
What were some of the prompts you asked?
Well, a lot of questions were like asking about Fall River, how is it, what they feel about Fall River, how they made Fall River in 10 years, what they changed in Fall River, and some of them, yeah, like I said, like some were like just drawing, some were like abstract with a brush, others I had like these stickers with circles that they had like make an abstract thing, collage, cutouts, yeah, I think those.
How's the neighborhood been, or business owners around here? Are they happy about this? Are they not sure?
No, everyone's been very
Gracious. One actually asked what? Somebody asked, hey, you doing
Can
this
you do it
every
right
year?
now?
I got a wall.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
definitely. I feel like next year everyone's gonna want to have a mural.
Hope so. Let's hope so. Yes.
Sophia, I don't know if you remember, but a year ago in Portugalia, when we had the conversation, we heard from artists in Fall River how resistant business owners were about murals. So you guys are turning the corner.
Now it's the opposite. They are asking. Of course, it's this logic of giving the artist liberty, freedom to create what they want, because we believe as organization this is really important, of course, but because this is not commissioned work.
Right.
They do what they want, of course, and this is important to let them express themselves. So in the beginning, of course, can be some resistance, like, okay, but what are you going to put on the wall? Like it's, but I think yes, maybe, and seeing all the works that are being done, people are responding quite positively.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
let's
great.
see next year what it brings from here. Yeah.
Wonderful. And next year you're going to have too many walls.
Never too many.
Let's hope. Perfect.
I like that.
Thank you. Obrigada.
You're missing the final touch. The final thing is my jagged tear on the actress's eyes, which represents aging. All the patterns are from the 30s and 50s Art Deco period. And for those of you that don't know, this is the old Capitol Theater that operated from the 30s until 50s in Fall River. So you can see the branding of the actual Capitol Theater nested in the background layers. And this is all centered around a series of work that I do called Jagged Tears. It's a body of paintings that I've done in street art all over the New York City, Hollywood. So I chose that motif for this particular building because it fit in. I mean, it just, it all made sense. The fact that it was a theater in its heyday from the 30s till 50s. This is the actress's eyes here are Eleanor Powell. One of the vintage black and white photos they have in existence of the facade of this building when it was open features a movie starring Eleanor Powell. So that was the reason behind choosing these particular eyes. So if any of you are on social media and hashtag Jagged Tears, you'll see all of the street art that I've done in this series of work, and also all the canvas and fine art. I've also did solo show in New York City called Jagged Tears New York City, and that's where all this stuff comes from. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Usually I work with the public space, no, and with the landscape. I'm studying the interaction of the colors in the landscape and how we see it. So how we look in general, what we live, okay? So here in Fall River, I would like to make something for the river, you know, the traditional area, industrial area with agricultural net for mixing my origin and the Fall River tradition in one unique opera on the abandoned place like this one, you know. So this is the concept of my work. And now, maybe not everybody, but a group of you go inside and have a look, and you can try the opera. It's under construction, so it's not so clean inside, okay?
If you want to go 15 people, okay, let's go because it won't.
You can taste it also. I would like to give you like the experience of like fragility also, no? So I can really emphasize kind of view.
I was gonna say. For our last stop, we have this artwork by Elian Chali. So Elian is an artist from Argentina. Unfortunately, last minute he got sick, so he couldn't join us here in Fall River. However, we sent him pictures and the sizes of the wall, and he sent us the project. So actually this amazing wall was painted by one of the artists that is going to perform tonight in Fall River, actually in half an hour. Manal Cabral, the island man. So because he's a painter too, yes. So actually this work...
You should have signed it.
Well, no.
He did it.
This work is all about memory, and actually the artwork from Elian, they have these references of gestures, of drawing, and it's really curious because this wall, you can see it from the Braga Bridge. So it's almost like a sign. For example, if I show you a map, you're telling me, oh, where is Portugalia? I will open a map and say, it's here, and cross it. So it's here, you're crossing the wall, you know, like with this gesture. But the thing is, he painted the negative of the drawing, showing us the bricks on the wall, you know. In a conventional wall, all the walls you see until now, you don't see this. You don't see the texture of the building. He wants to highlight the building, talking about its history and the importance of the buildings in a city as containers of memory. And he wants us to look at the city as living organisms themselves, with all the buildings and it is logic. So this is what Alien has for us, and what Fabric presents us this year. I hope you had enjoyed this tour, and now you join us for the concerts that's already starting. Okay, so
up the street.
yes, you go by walk